morning. Welcome to StayOn TImes, and this is Phon Hilaratana.
Hello, and I am Stacy Kim.
Last week, we already talked about the role of leading political leaders during World War I. So, Stacy, today what are we going to talk about?
Since we are still on the World War I topic, today our topic is propaganda. Propaganda means the exaggeration of facts or showing only one side of the fact to persuade people. Propaganda was used during every war in World War I. It ensured that people got to know only what their rulers or government wanted them to know. Also, it made the citizens love, respect, and fight for their countries and to resist their enemy. During the World War I, all forms of information such as newspapers, political cartoons, posters, brochures were strictly controlled.
The censorship happened since government wanted to guarantee that their citizens thought in the same way they wanted. In many warring countries, especially Britain, government expected newspapers to print only articles that they wanted their citizens to read. One of the most infamous headlines by Britain was Belgium's child's hands cut off by Germans. They printed headline in order to build up negative emotion against the enemy.
However, those headlines were not always accurate. Government let only good news to be published because they required their citizens to think that their nation would win the war. Bad news was rarely published. For instance, when the British battleship called HMS Audacious was sunk in 1914, it was not reported. On November 1916, newspaper owners and editors greatly supported the government by not publishing the bad news. They were also rewarded for supporting the propaganda. In 1916, the Daily Express owner named Lord Beaverbrook was a cabinet minister, and later he became the Minister of Information in 1918. Other newspapers owners also became to be the part of Britain's war effort. Moreover, the information from the soldiers at front was censored by the government and themselves. They decided not to tell their relatives what was actually going on because those soldiers did not want their relatives to worry about them.
There was false censorship during that period. The purpose of censorship was to stop revealing sensitive information out to the enemy. There was a newspaper company called Tribunals that published more accurate news or even anti-war articles, and they were approved at first. However, at last, the pacifist newspaper Tribunals were closed down, while the socialist newspaper The Daily Heroes were controlled by the censors.
During World War I, most of the famous authors, including H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, Thomas Hardy, Rudyard Kipling, had signed a declaration by authors to support the war. Therefore, they could publish patriotic publications without any fee. The history group at the Oxford University produced the Red Book, telling why Britain was justified in going to war. Later, the Red Book was published about 50,000 copies. Propaganda was also aimed at children. All kids loved toys and comics. The government produced toys and patriotic comics that were intended to influence kids to support the war effort.
The other important propaganda during that time was films. The government didn't have to make their own propaganda film because their citizens already made their war films even without government's permission. Between 1915 and 1918, British filmmakers produced 240 war films. Most of them did without the War Department's concern. There was a group of film companies called the British Tropical Committee for War Films. They produced and sold films to the War Department. They made some of the famous war films, and one of the most successful films was The Battle of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme was released in August 1916. It was the real story from the battle, and the film also showed real scenes. 13% of the film showed dead or injured soldiers. It was the first chance for those people to see what really happened in the war. Some people were shocked because of the realism, while the entire war campaigner approved of this film since it revealed more true horror than any films. However, the film did not tell all the true story. Also did not tell their audience which was which. So there were still some fake scenes in the films.
Mom, do you think during the World War I did the propaganda really work?
Of course, it did, right?
Actually, it was really hard to measure how effective the propaganda was. The only and greatest way to measure is if people still kept supporting for the war. Here is some information about the numbers of publications that were spread out in Britain. Number of newspaper copies increased highly during the war. The Daily Express increased from 295,000 to 579,000 within 2 years. In 1918, the patriotic journal John Bull was sold 2 million copies, and the News of the World was sold even more. This ensured that all the citizens were surrounded by what the government wanted them to know. However, most citizens supported the war of their own accord, and many of them joined patriotic organizations such as the Fight for Right movement, the Council of Loyal British Subjects, or the Victoria League.
The propaganda during World War I persuaded citizens to join the army, to hate their army, and to always keep their spirit high. Propaganda also helped citizens to be proud of their nations, so it was one factor of nationalism, which was one of the main causes of World War I.
Nowadays, there is still propaganda in many other countries. One of those countries that have strict propaganda is North Korea. Propaganda in North Korea is controlled by the Propaganda and Agitation Department of the Workers' Party of Korea. The main purpose of propaganda in North Korea is the cult toward Kim Il-sung, formation of anti-American mind, and to be proud as a North Korean. North Korea is trying to influence citizens to resist the enemy and have pride in their nation, which is same as propaganda during World War I.
One of the main propaganda in North Korea is cartoons. Several cartoons are published from a state-owned publishing house every year. Most of the cartoons are revealed as the United States and Japan trying to make crisis toward North Korea. These cartoons are for almost all citizens, not only just children, because most of them cannot understand some complex sentences.
Posters are also the other main propaganda in North Korea as they were in World War I. Even though there are televisions in North Korea, people are affected more from the posters than the news that always tells about how good the North Korea is. Posters show the theme of military, which is similar to posters in World War I. They persuade people to join the army and exaggerate how good their military is. Also, posters are made to describe the correct actions as a North Korean for daily life, even for clothing.
North Korea has the new way of propaganda compared to World War I. It is the website. There are many interesting things going on this North Korean official sites such as the tour trip, business, and the gallery of each trip in North Korea. However, North Korean people would not be able to access to the internet, which means this website is only for foreigners, especially South Koreans. North Korea want to take over South Korea so that they could occupy the whole Korean peninsula with inside support.
North Korea's propaganda is similar to the World War I's because of the undeveloped level of technology in North Korea since 1900s. However, the official website of North Korea is the only difference between propaganda in North Korea and in World War I.
So, now is your times. Still remember about the propaganda in World War I? One of the publications that support propaganda was poster. Here is the poster during World War I. Please describe this poster. If you are a chosen one, we will send you a special gift.
Please do it neatly and you will be the most lucky person. Good luck, and this is for today. We'll see you next week at 10:15. Thank you.
Thank you.
1916, newspaper owners and editors greatly support the the government by not publishing the just
This like Hello, welcome to StayOn TImes. Hello, hello. Such as newspapers, political cartoons, posters, brochures were strictly controlled. This censorship happened since
What? Oh my god, I cannot do this.
posters, brochures were. You messed up. Thank you.